I'm your 4th District State Representative, Matt Shea. Thank you for joining me on this legislative update. The legislature convened in Olympia on January 9th for a scheduled short 60-day session. This was only 3 weeks after lawmakers adjourned from a 17-day special session in December, during which they passed only a partial solution to a $2 billion budget shortfall. About $480 million in reductions were made, even though budget writers had nearly 3 months to prepare a spending reduction plan that should have addressed the entire $2 billion shortfall. Unfortunately, Democrats decided to kick the can down the road once again, leaving the heavy lifting to the regular session. The spokesman review said, quote, "The prevailing attitude of leadership would appear to be, why do you do today what you can put off until next month? That means we still have to address a remaining $1.5 billion shortfall this special session." I was hoping the legislature would get right to work on the budget problem as we began the regular session. But to my dismay, the chairman of the Senate Ways and Means Committee canceled the first week of budget meetings. The chairman of that committee happens to be the prime sponsor of the same-sex marriage bill in the Senate, and there have been reports that he's spending his time trying to gather signatures and support for that bill. So if that is the case, I am very disappointed, and we need to use this 60-day session more productively to address the budget and get Washington working again. In fact, Section 7 of the same-sex marriage bill, House Bill 2516, will potentially put private businesses like wedding photographers and private facilities like those operated by the Knights of Columbus out of business if they refuse to participate in same-sex wedding ceremonies. With nearly 300,000 people out of work here in Washington, this is clearly the wrong direction. Also, Article 1, Section 11 of the Washington Constitution recognizes an absolute freedom of conscience in all matters of religious sentiment. This is a direct assault on that right. I'm also concerned that the majority party will wait until the February revenue forecast before making any progress in reducing the budget. Here again, we're kicking the can down the road. The state spends nearly $40 million a day. And every day we wait makes balancing the budget all that much more difficult to accomplish. In her State of the State address, the governor offered no real reforms to reduce the budget. Instead, she talked about spending more money and asked the legislature to hand voters a $500 million tax increase to consider. These are just several reasons why I've introduced legislation that would ask voters to amend the state constitution to require a balanced state budget. By statute, the governor is required to introduce a balanced budget proposal. However, the legislature is not required to pass one. In good years, Democrats have spent beyond budget surpluses, so there's little money remaining in savings. And in this latest budget, the state is spending more than it did in the previous budget cycle. Because of that, we're back in a self-created shortfall. And yet, the state is expected to bring in nearly $2 billion more than the previous budget cycle. That's right, we're bringing in more money this year than last. Clearly, we are spending too much. Government must balance its checkbook just like you and I have had to do. House Joint Resolution 4225 would do just that by requiring the legislature to adopt a balanced state budget. Secondly, the measure would require that spending in the budget is no higher than 95% of projected revenues. Any remaining balance from the previous budget would be rolled over into the next budget cycle. This would keep the legislature from spending beyond its means and assure that the state would have no more budget shortfalls inherited by our kids and our grandkids. There are other budget reforms and efficiencies we should pass as well that I will be discussing in the coming weeks. Things like requiring proof of residency to receive welfare and food stamps, restructuring DSHS, implementing performance audits, paring down the Department of Ecology, and eliminating taxpayer-funded lobbyists. These will save millions of dollars and balance the budget. We don't need tax increases. We need a leaner government. We need to set spending priorities, and we need a balanced budget amendment to hold the legislature accountable. 7 weeks remain of this legislative session, so I urge you to stay informed and be active. Contact my office at 360-786-7984. That's 360-786-7984. Or you may contact me through my website. You'll see the address on your screen. Thanks again for joining me on this legislative update. I'm your state representative, Matt Shea.